Okay, thanks for joining us today. So we're going to be going through a demo of Intuit Field Service Management. This is the work order program that connects into QuickBooks. All right, so if you send your technicians out into the field to do any work, perform work for your customers, then this is a good product to be looking at. Now, as with anything QuickBooks, this program can be used in several different industry types, so I'm not going to focus on a particular industry necessarily today. We have it for people who do, solar installations. We have it for people who do repair work on, HVAC repairs. We have people who work on medical devices in the field. They need to go out and service them. Electricians. We've seen a lot of different scenarios where people can use this. So again, a good way to think about it is if I have people in my office daily that I need to dispatch out to my customers, tell them where to go, and they need to go complete a work order out there, this is a good product to be looking at. So first thing, of course, to note, Field Service Management is a web-based product, so you can access it from any web browser, okay, which means you can access it from anywhere. You don't need to be in the office. You don't need to be, connected into your QuickBooks file. The people who have access to Field Service Management don't even need access to your QuickBooks file, which is great, okay? Inside the program, we have a little quick find here. So if you're searching for a particular work order, over on the side, we do have some recent items, so recent places that you visited. We have the dispatch board, which we'll take a look at in just a little bit. We have the connection center here. This is a feature that's new in Field Service Management for about the last year. That feature allows for your technicians to have an app on their phone separate from the Field Service app, but an app that will connect to your customers. Your customers can also have an app on their phone. And what's wonderful about that, right, is that let's say, you're a plumbing company, and anytime somebody has a problem with plumbing, right, what's the first thing they do? They go Google. And sometimes your name could come up at the top of the list. Maybe your Google ads are down for the morning or something like that, right? And you may miss out on having that repeat customer. So what did we used to do? We used to give magnets out, right? Well, that's kind of old technology, but new technology is now you can get your customer to download an app on their phone, and it doesn't have to be just for you. They can download the app on their phone and use it for their electrician or whoever else. They can search for other types. But what it does is it puts you at the top of their list so that when they go into their Get Crew app on their phone, they can request a work order right from their app, and it sends it right into your system. Okay, they can take pictures. It does some geo-spotting, right? So it picks up where their location is. It's really a great way to connect with your customers, but also kind of a way to leave a magnet with them. Okay, so you're in the forefront of their mind whenever they have a problem. So anyway, all right, moving along. We have our work orders, customer drop-down invoices, some reports, our people set up. There are some add-on modules to Field Service Management with the time card module and the service agreement module. So we'll touch on that just a little bit here as well. Then moving down below here, so we do have our different views. So right now I'm looking at my unassigned work orders, so I know what I need to go out and assign today. My work orders that need to be scheduled, right? So maybe they're assigned but they haven't been scheduled out yet. Pending work orders, overdue or late work orders, on hold, completed, canceled, etc. Okay. Then over here we do have some filters, so we can filter by service team, which we'll talk about in a little bit, as well as dispatch centers. And then finally we have some additional filters even, where we can filter by last action date, right? Was this month, this week? Appointment date is today, next 7 days, etc. A skill level, which we'll talk about, and then a work order type. Okay, so you can filter your list down here. So again, when I'm talking about our first customer that we set up in Field Service Management, we set up in 2009, and they're still using the product. They have 45 technicians, and they do alarm repairs. okay, or alarm servicing. And so you can imagine with 45 technicians, this list here, and I have it zoomed in a little bit, but this list here could get pretty extensive. So using things like work order type or using things like skill to be able to filter this list down are really important. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. So the workflow that we're going to go through again is a sample workflow. Definitely we're here to assist with setting you up and making sure that you're getting the most out of your field service management file. Our stickiness rating here at Fourlane is incredibly high. Customers who come to us, we do everything possible to make sure that field service is going to work for them. We even have the ability to do some custom application design on top of field service management if it's something that is absolutely required. Okay, so you found the right place. All right, so first of all, the workflow we're going to go through is going to be, I'm going to create a work order, and then we're going to flip on over to look at the application on an iPad. And then of course we're going to come back into field service management and connect it into QuickBooks, so you can see the entire thing. All right, make sure to write down any questions as we go, so we will follow up with you on those. All right, so first of all we're going to create a new work order. When I'm in this screen here, and again I have it zoomed in, let me zoom out just a little bit there. When you're in this screen here, you can see the work order wizard is what we're in. So I have customer, what's their problem, right? Assignment, and then a quick review and confirm. Okay, so 4 steps to get on and off the phone. When we set up your field service management, our goal is going to be, first of all, what terminology needs to be used in order to communicate to your technicians effectively. Second of all, how can we get your customer on and off the phone quickly, right? They will appreciate it. They will really like working with you. If all of their information is in the system, easy for your dispatchers to get to that information and then, get them off the phone and get somebody out there to help. Okay. So you can set up a new customer in field service management here. Right, so if they're a new customer, it is a two-way sync between QuickBooks and field service. So if you set them up in QuickBooks, it will sync up here. If you set them up in field service, it will sync to QuickBooks. Okay, and I say up because it's in the cloud. All right, so you can see all the fields here we can use to set up. Anything that's in orange is something that's required. So first name, last name, display customer as. If it's commercial, obviously, it would switch to customer name instead. Okay. Tax, primary phone number, email address, all standard things. Services, right, or service address, so where are we going? Okay. We do have a work zone set up, which is a possibility to use. The work zones are basically used for different time zones. So our customers that expand to get across different time zones would use, it's called a work zone here in field service. Job tax, job code. Okay, so we can set up tax levels. We can put a PO in here if the billing address is different than the ship to address, right? Then where we're actually going. I say ship to address because that's the field that fills in QuickBooks, but if the billing address is different, you can fill that in here. And then we have some custom fields set up in field service management. These are separate fields than the custom fields that you set up in QuickBooks, right? We have to think about these as being 2 separate products. In field service management, we want to be running reports to see how effective our work orders are, right? So are we getting there on time? Maybe source, where did the customer hear about us? Things that are important on the work order level. Inside QuickBooks, we want to be reporting things that are important on the financial level or, making business decisions level. Okay, so it's a little bit of different data, but what's really exciting about it is that we can run reports in both systems and we can have different custom fields so we can get more out of our data. It's always what we push on here at Fourlane. Okay, so if you already have, if they're an existing customer, we can do a search by name, phone number, address, etc. Generally, we do a phone number search. So I'm going to search for 1234. All right, and then we can see here everybody who comes up with 1234 and their phone number. All right. Also, one of the things I said I was going to talk about here, so the filters. So we have another filter here where we can filter by service team as well as dispatch center. Right now I'm logged in as the admin, so I have access to everything. Okay, but when we set up our users, we have a couple different levels that we can set up. So first of all, admin, right? And you can see everything. The second level user is our technician. So our technician logs in, they can see their work orders. Okay, they can't see the entire teams. Then we have a manager, and a manager is assigned different technicians under that manager, right? And so when the manager logs in, they can see their own work orders and they can see anybody else who's on their team. Okay, so they're assigned by teams. And you can assign multiple teams to one manager if you need to. Then finally, if you're a dispatcher, right, so you can log in and you can see anybody who's assigned to your dispatch center. So again, think about it this way. So we have an office in Austin, Houston, and Dallas. Okay. The Austin team is managed by the Austin dispatcher. So the Austin dispatcher sees their team, the Austin manager sees their team, that's it. But the Houston and Dallas offices are kind of newer offices for us, newer expansions, and we only have a couple technicians there. So the dispatcher for Houston and Dallas can see both dispatch, all work orders in Dallas and in Houston, so for both teams. And then the manager for that, maybe we have a manager in Houston and a separate manager in Dallas, right? So then they could only see their own respective teams. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, when we go through the setup of field service management, the hardest part are making kind of those decisions. Not that you can't, make the Houston manager in charge of Dallas, and then as you get a Dallas manager, you separate them. There's always the ability to make changes, but we'll definitely take you through that workflow to make sure you have it set up the right way. Okay, so again, coming back down here, I'm going to first click on ABC Store and show you the way that this looks. So you can see here ABC Store, once I select that, I do have multiple jobs, right, associated with ABC Store. So that's similar to when I look in QuickBooks, right, we have customers with multiple jobs under the customer. So field service management follows that same flow there, okay? So if I choose one job, it has different information than if I choose a different job, right? Different information there. Okay. I can add additional jobs from right here as well. So separate from the customers, I want to add an additional job. I can edit jobs. I can add additional contacts here, right? So lots of information available. Now I'm going to switch over to the San Antonio Zoo here. Okay, so again, I have just one job at the San Antonio Zoo, so that's possible. You don't have to have multiples. With this one, I have the maintenance agreement turned on. Okay, so again, this is an add-on for field service management, but it's something that's really wonderful. When you'd want to use this is that if you want to, so similar in QuickBooks, you know how you have memorized transactions where you can set up a transaction, have it automatically post. In field service management, we have maintenance agreements, which allows us to say, I want to schedule a work order to go out once every 6 months for this customer for the next 10 years. Okay, and field service management automatically creates those work orders for you, right? What's so nice about this is the dispatcher, right? San Antonio Zoo, Joe Smith calls in and says, hey, I need you guys to come out and work on this XYZ. I can go, oh, we have a maintenance agreement with you. Let me go ahead and see, take a look here. We're scheduled to be out there and working with you. And obviously this is a sample file, so dates are a little off. But we're scheduled to be out there and work with you in 2 months for your 6-month visit. Let me go ahead and grab this work order and let's tackle two birds with one stone, right? Let's hit both topics, both your semi-annual review and whatever's going on right now at the same time. Eliminates trips. Fewer trips means, more money for us as a business, right? So really important there. If I looked at this and, it's July and our next appointment's in September, maybe I don't want to tackle this one right away. So I say, okay, let me just hop right back in here to this work order. Okay, so it takes me right back where I was. We can choose to make this invoiceable or non-invoiceable, right? So there are a lot of areas that we want to discuss with you around that. If you're wanting to do any kind of inventory tracking, even if you're not going to invoice your customers in the field, we still want to make it invoiceable so that the items can go onto the invoice, even if it's a $0 charge. and it can flow into QuickBooks to relieve your inventory appropriately. Okay. The times when you maybe won't want to make it invoiceable are if we have to send somebody out there for some kind of warranty situation, right? Like, you know, they were out here yesterday and they didn't fix the problem, or the problem came back. You know, we may not be charging them for that additional trip. All right. The PO number field you can put in here. It will flow into QuickBooks, okay, which is exciting. And then we have our custom fields that we talked about. So these fields are something that are completely defined by you. You can see through my demos that I've done in here, I have a lot of different types of fields that are available. So, you know, you can have drop downs, you can have free types, you can have, you know, on the next screen you'll see some booleans, which are some yes, no buttons. But anyway, what's really nice about these fields, you can run reports in field service management that are really powerful. So let's say we're using source here, and I know I have two of them. It's because, again, sample file. But let's say we have source here and I have a drop down, right? So these are all the ways that we advertise, and I say to them, how did you hear about us? So I can take this field and run a report once a month or once a week or whatever it is and say, show me how many work orders I got from source, radio versus Yahoo versus Google. And even show me a total of invoice income, right? So total number of sales that I got from each individual source as well. So that's really important, because here we are spending $10,000 for a radio ad. We only got $500 from it, but Google, we spent $2,000 and we got, you know, $8,000 in income from it. Really important to have that data tracked in here so you can run those reports. Okay. Now I know this is going to take me a long time to get through, but again, the focus is when we set you up the first time that you get on and off the phone with the customer. So obviously I'm going through every single point right now, but you know, it should take 30 seconds, a minute to get you through all of this information. All right, so now I'm at the problem stage. So first of all, it tells us this work order has service activity already associated with it. Or a job has activity already associated with it. So you want to make sure, right, to take a look and see what activity is already there. I must have a lot of activity associated with this one, because usually it gives me a couple examples up top here, but this is a sample file I use all the time, and so probably I have several that are waiting outstanding here. So then we have, so again, it gives us a warning, right? Hey, are you sure you want to put in a work order here, because this job already has a work order open, right? What's nice about that is if they called the technician directly for whatever reason, or the manager directly, and the manager set up a work order, then they called the office set up a work order, right? We won't have duplicates because the system's going to warn us. Then we have our work order types here. So work order types, again, completely customize whatever you want to have set up in here. This is a way to filter your work orders. I kind of look at this as if it's a class, same as a class field in QuickBooks. So different work order types there are a way, again, when you're looking at your home screen, you want to filter by work order type. You know, this is how many warranty repair work orders do we have today versus service work orders, versus some of our customers use it as quotes. All right, then we get down to the problem here. Now, a lot of people get confused with this. The problem is this is not our services that we offer to customers, right? This is what the customers are telling us when they call us and they say they're having a problem. So this is their problem, all right? Now, when we think about setting up these boxes here, we want to think again about how it translates to our technicians effectively. So the customer calls in, they say, hey, I need a new service. I have no power with my AC unit. And then we can put in, you know, some gate code, gate code 123, no power, to AC unit, funny noise. Okay, so this is where we translate to the technician, right? What is the customer telling us is happening? When we get out there, it could be something completely different, right? I don't know, maybe it's their water heater, not their AC unit, so maybe calling the wrong company, but still. So we can keep track of that information here. So there are conditional drop downs. So again, if I choose new service or new install, I can say new switches, new service, no power, warranty work, what do we do? Okay, so these are all set up by you all internally based on, again, what problems your customers call you about. Right here, we're trying to replace what your technicians are frequently having, or your dispatchers are frequently having to write on work orders over and over and over again. Okay. Also in this area, so I'm going to go ahead and add an additional problem. Also in this area, if we have been out to the customer before and we have equipment set up at this customer level, okay, I can choose the equipment as well. So notice when I choose a piece of equipment here, now this is equipment I have set up at this location already, okay? So if I choose this piece of equipment here, it has different conditional drop downs, right, as well. And notice when I select AC electrical system down below here, it gives me work orders for every time we've worked on the AC electrical system. If I select the engine, it'll give me every time we've worked on the engine. So different work orders down below. Okay. So I'm going to say AC electrical, no power, blah. Okay. And again, you can add as many problems as you want in here. You want to keep it kind of high level again because of course, customers call us and they tell us that, our house is on fire and, it's just something minor type of thing. Okay, then we have some additional custom fields. Again, you can have at the work order level. Obviously, these wouldn't be saved. These would be per work order. You fill them in if you needed to use them. And here we can see those booleans, the yes, no buttons, drop downs again. Down below here, we do have, so this is work order history at this location period for all time. Equipment service, well, it doesn't show all time here. It shows the last 90 days here. We can get to all time through some of the reports, but recent work order history, equipment service history, customer service. So this is the customer as a whole if they had multiple locations. And then, of course, we can filter down, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year. There you go. Okay. All right, so then next we come over here to our assignment. So step 3, this is where we assign out our work orders. So we can have our different appointment types. So I'm going to mark it as scheduled. You can leave it as unscheduled and assign it to a technician. Let them handle their own schedule. You can schedule out the days you can see, right, so that you can really stack on here when people are available or when they're not. You can give a promised arrival time if you want to. You don't have to. None of these fields up top here are required except for appointment type up top. So I'm going to go ahead and give my promised arrival time, say from 9 a.m. We'll be there between 9 and 11 as an example. Okay. Now, what this does is the estimated, I'm going to skip over this middle field, I'll come back. The estimated duration is defaulting based on the problems that I had on the previous screen. So ahead of time, I have set up the default time that it'll take to solve those problems. Okay, so we can do that in the setup. Now I do have the ability to edit this, so I think it's going to take 4 hours as an example for this appointment. I can give my estimated time of arrival. You probably don't want to do both a promised time of arrival and an ETA. You'd want to do one or the other. But what field service management does is it says, okay, we should be there between 9 and 11. So this work order at the latest should be done at 3 because we estimate that it'll take 4 hours. And there are performance reports in there. So if they started it, at 12, it would trigger a flag on this work order. If they ended it at 5, there would be a flag, right? So there are some performance-based reports built into the system. Okay, again, not required, but once you get into the program, it's, it'll be easier to use, and then you can start using these additional features that will be helpful for you, again, to make good decisions on your work order workflow. Priorities, we can set priorities in here, so you define what these mean. It means, if the technician, so for urgent, the technician's required to acknowledge this work order within 4 hours. Otherwise, it flags the office. If it's an emergency, they're required to acknowledge this work order within an hour, or it flags the office type of thing. So we get to set those up. You can also have your skills here. So your skills are a way to filter down your technician list. Okay, so if I say, oh, I need a master electrician for this, and I have a list of 45 techs in here, I want to filter it by skill, right? Then it shows me just the people who are master electricians on this list. Okay, so again, that's used to filter down your technicians. We can filter down by teams over here, right? So I want to see just my Detroit team versus my, I don't know why vehicles is in there, but vehicle team. Then down below here is where we go through and we assign out the work order. So you can see here I have all my technicians set up. Okay, I'm going to assign this work order to Marjorie Jane because that's my iPad who I have hooked up to my iPad here. Marjorie's now made the primary on this work order. She's going to be responsible for closing out the work order ticket. If you needed to assign some secondaries to go out with Marjorie on that job, I can assign the secondaries like that. Okay. The secondaries will see the work orders on their work order list, but they're not going to be the ones responsible for closing out the work order tickets. Okay. Now I can leave it as non-scheduled as we talked about before, so if I don't want to plan out my technician's day, I just say here are the tickets that you need to get done and let them figure it out. That's fine. We also have our map view. And so with the map view, what it does is, all right, so it's going to tell me here where my work order is. Let's zoom in. So this is using Google Maps. Okay, so very similar to, I'm sure everybody's used Google Maps before. You can drag it around, right, move it around. What I'd be able to see here is I would be able to see my work order, which is showing up here in black, and then I'd be able to see any of my technicians that are logged into the system. Okay, what's really nice about that is that we'd be able to say, you know, on this work order ticket, you know, Jim is right down the street. He's finishing up another work order. Let me see if he can hop on over and help you out after that. Okay. So again, it gives us visibility into who's doing what, where they're at, if they're close by, which is really helpful again when deciding, you know, who's going to go out and handle this job. All right. Okay. So now we're going to go through and do a quick review. And again, this is just a quick review of all of our information. We can add some internal notes here, so non-customer facing notes, and we can go ahead and say finish. All right, so now it says that this work order has been created. When I click into the work order, again, it gives me some summary information. We also have the ability now to add attachments. Attachments can only be seen if you're logged into the web version, right? So you can't see them on the app on your phone, but on your phone you can log into the web version to see these attachments. So again, if they're, I don't know, our designs or anything like that, we can attach them there, and we do have access to them when we're out in the field. Also, you can see here added times posted, so I do have field service management set up with the add-on for time card module. And then down below here we have our action log. So essentially in field service management there is no deleting. You cannot delete anything once you've created it, which is really nice, right? Nobody can go and have a work order and then delete it. You can only cancel things, and all along the way you do have this action log or audit trail that keeps track of who did what when on this work order. Okay. All right, so now that I've created the work order, we're going to go ahead and flip on over and get into the application. Okay, so now you can see my screen here, and when you're dealing with field service management, it's just an app, right on your device here. So I can click into the app and it pulls up for me any of the information that I have. So I have 2 appointments. Right, if I had any alerts in the system, it pulled up. Again, emergency, it puts in a different area, but I have 2 appointments waiting for pickup in here. Okay, now before I go into that, I just wanted to point out that we do have a little menu here. So I can create a new work order from the field. I can look at my time card. I can find a work order. I can look at my team's work since I'm set up again as an admin or a manager. I can look at that. So if I look at my team's work in here, I can see all the unassigned work orders that are set up for my team, how many are waiting for pickup, and if for the unassigned work order, as an example, I can go in, look at the work order, open it up, okay, I can see that the status is unassigned, and I can click into that status. Okay, occasionally this screen share is going to flip around on me there. But I can go into, let's scroll down to the bottom here. So I can send the work order out to somebody, but I could go in and assign it out to a technician as well. Okay. On this demo here, I don't have the technician set up here, so I have to go in and set it up in the back end that I can edit it and assign it out from my app. So again, there are some preventative measures in there so that I can make sure that I'm not doing something I shouldn't be doing in the field. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead in here and look at my work orders. All right, and I know it's really small, but basically we'll look at it. It'll be a little bit bigger here in a second. So basically, here, let me see if I can, there, it's a little better that way. Here are all my work orders for the day. Okay, so I have ABC Electrical, I have 2 work orders, but we're going to focus on this San Antonio Zoo one that we just created. So I'm going to go ahead and click onto that work order. Now, again, you can decide what information shows up here on your work order. All right, because you know, maybe we don't want, again, the estimated time of arrival to show up, or maybe we don't want the estimated duration to show up for the technician. Maybe that's not some information that we want to give them. Okay, so you can decide what shows up here when they're looking at this ticket. So first of all, if I click on customer, anytime you see these little arrows on the side, that means that there's drill down information. So I can see the customer information in here, phone number, email address, etc. If I were on a device that could call out, right, I can click on the phone number and it will make those phone calls for me. Field Service Management does work with all Android and Apple devices, so you can use an iPad, as I'm showing right here, iPhone. You know, you can use different Android devices. The majority of our customers do tend to use the Android devices. They are a little bit cheaper, but as the price goes down on the Apple side, we are seeing a little bit more of that. Okay, I'm going to skip over status for right now and just keep going down the list here so we can go through all the features. All right, so I have my promised arrival time, etc. If I click on the job area, it will give me a drop down that shows me all work order history at this location again. So again, the technicians have access to this data in the field. I can click into a particular work order even. I can see, right, what they did. So they canceled this one, but I can see what happened on this work order. I can even go in and see that I have notes there. Oh, it's an appointment no-show. But if I had any picture notes tied to the work order, so let's try maybe this one, right? I would be able to drill down and see those picture notes even right here from my app. So again, last time I left them, here's what we left them with. Let's take a picture. Now we're coming back in. They're saying something's wrong. I have a lot of information available for me right there at my fingertips based on our history with this customer. If I clicked on service address here, it would give me turn-by-turn directions from where I'm at currently to where I'm going, again using Google Maps. Okay. The problem description, so let's go ahead and click into that and see what we have. So we have that, right? New service, no power, gate code, no power to AC unit, funny noise. And then we have our AC electrical system, no power, blah, 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 right? So as a technician completes out these different items, they can go in and mark them as green. Oh, I finished that. Oh, I finished that. Okay, so it helps them keep track of everything they need to do when they're out there. In the notes area, again, when we come into the notes, we can add a new note. All right, you can see text note, picture note. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a picture note and use my camera right now. So when you're out there again, they can take a picture. All right, and it's attached right into the work order ticket. So we have a lot of customers who take a picture at the beginning of the work order and at the end of the work order. So we make sure that we're leaving a clean space type of thing. Now we have the work done description. Used to be in the 6 years ago when we first started, or 7 years ago when we first started working with field service management, our biggest complaint from people would be, my technicians are not going to use this technology. But nowadays, it's obviously People are used to using iPhones, etc., so we don't hear that complaint as much. But the work done description, one of the things that field service management does do is that when you're in this field, you can type, blah, 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 but it also has the dictation feature turned on, so I can speak into it and it'll record what I'm saying. Obviously, this dictation has gotten a lot better. This is, Apple that does that part. It has gotten a lot better, but sometimes you do have to train it for a little bit, right? If you have DC 123 as a part number or something like that, some weird codes that you use, it does take a little bit of training there. But it's great because, again, for the people who don't want to type things in. All right, we're going to leave invoice total for now, come back to that one as well. Then I have my equipment here. Okay, so again, if I come in here and say I'm going to work on their AC electrical system, when I choose that system, now I can see the attributes for that system. I can see the equipment history, meaning work order history for this piece of equipment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and edit the attributes here. Look at the attributes. Anything in red is required. We can keep track of historical through this. So let's say, I don't know if we have cycle counts or anything like that. We're trying to keep track of the cycle counts. We can, or maybe a meter count, right? It was 500 this month. Next month it's 750. We want to keep that. If I chose a different piece of equipment and I looked at the attributes, I can have different attributes set up for different types of equipment. So again, the rack count here, when I click into it, I can say, 700 now, and I probably have that tracked behind the scenes to keep that history. Okay, so we have our equipment there, and then again, I have some custom fields set up down below here. Primary tech is a custom field, but color and 110RT is set up as a custom field, so we can add those custom fields to this as well. All right. So status, I'm going to jump back up to status. So the first thing is that when it comes to dealing with the technicians here, I'm going to move it to the side and open up my dispatch board. Okay. Make this a little smaller. There we go. Okay, so when I open up my dispatch board right now, we're looking at let's see here, Joe Smith, right? If I highlight over here on the dispatch board, it'll tell me some information. Again, you can decide what information shows up there for the dispatcher to see, but it does tell me some information there on the side. When I'm looking at my dispatch board, it is drag and drop, so if I need to move something around, I can do so. Also, I can look at my list view, so instead of looking at it in a dispatch board view here, I can look at a list view. I can also look at it as a map view to see, again, where my where my technicians are, where my work orders are located, etc. All right, so inside of field service management here, again, I'm going to go to my status, or inside the app, I'm going to go to status, and I'm going to go ahead and say pick it up first. All right, so the sync between field service and the dispatchers back here is seamless. I do have my dispatch board set to auto refresh every 5 minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and manually refresh it for now. So when I hit this refresh button, okay, when I hit the refresh button up top here, it's still loading. Oh, I don't know why. Here, let me just close out of it and reopen it. It's acting kind of silly right now. But when I come in there now, you can see it's already moved over to blue. Okay, so blue is a nice calming color. Yellow is cautionary. The technician hasn't picked it up yet. Red is it's past due. The technician hasn't started working on it yet. Right, so it gives us some little color coding in there. And then, of course, when we go in and we get started, right, you can track en route time if you want, but when we get started, then of course when it refreshes, it's going to turn to green as well. There are some different statuses that we can set in there, so we can pause it when we're going to lunch. I do have the time card set up to track my time on a work order basis, so anytime I start the work order, my time card starts on it, and anytime I stop the work order, my time card stops. We can also set flags or put them on hold, and you can have different reasons for that, right? So you can see need parts, need assignment, reassignment, etc. You get to decide what shows up on that set flag list. And again, it's what, things that your technicians would normally be having to tell the office. Okay. So again, we have that work started. I'm just going to go ahead and mark it as completed. Again, it takes me to my work done note. So these are customer facing notes. So you want to make sure that when you're taking these notes that it's something that the customer can see. Period. I finished the job. Okay, so I have some little notes in there. I can mark it as completed. On the work order itself, I can copy this work order, right? So again, if I'm working on multiple pieces of equipment, you would have to set up a different work order for that. So I can copy the work order across. And again, we have some workarounds for that. Shouldn't scare you. Talk to us first. But we can also accept a customer signature. All right, so the customer comes in here. They can review your work that you completed. They see that the work done, right? What did I do? And they can hit accept. And you can take a signature. Okay, now we get into the point where we're dealing with QuickBooks, right? Because all of this so far we have seen, except for the customer connecting to QuickBooks, what about, setting up an invoice or etc. So we're going to go into invoice total here. All right. So when I'm in the invoice total here, I can leave it in prepared, not prepared. So if it's not prepared, it means I'm not finished yet. So we have some different statuses there. You can have your class field auto-populate based on your technician. Again, class field is, if you're not familiar with QuickBooks, will help you decide what you should use there. The invoice date, the PO number obviously came across from what we set up earlier, and we can have some custom fields at the invoice level here. Then we go down and we add a new line item. Okay, so here is where it comes in for QuickBooks. So this is my items list in QuickBooks. You can have service items, inventory items, non-inventory parts in here. I'm going to focus on an inventory part so we can see what happens when we do inventory in the field. Okay, now I know that a lot of people think, oh, there's no way we could ever do inventory in the field. But once you get the system set up again, maybe it's not a phase 1 for the project with going live with field service management, but definitely consider it something to look at in the future. If you don't have to track every, nut, bolt, and screw, but if you have major pieces of equipment that are leaving your warehouse and going onto trucks, I definitely recommend we talk about how we can track that. Again, not every piece of equipment, just some of them, so that you can make sure that technicians are being responsible for what they take out of the warehouse. Okay. Also, by considering to track inventory in that fashion, right? I mean, inventory costs money because you have a warehouse, but inventory is also cheaper because potentially you can go to your vendors and say, I want to order 10 or 15 of this product and get price breaks, as opposed to going and buying it at retail cost at, Home Depot, every week. Okay, so definitely lots of things to consider with that. So I'm going to go ahead and add a Bic pen to this work order to show that I used it. I can come in here and say, that I added 12 of them as an example. We do have the ability to do some discounts in here as well. And it is a taxable item, so notice that we can keep track of sales tax in here. Okay. Now I can take a signature on the invoice as well, so this looks a little bit different. Still has the work done description, etc., but it's having the customer sign off on what they're paying. Okay, so again, all right. The other thing that I can do, which is really neat, is I can take a payment in the field. So I know, again, sometimes people tell me there's no way I can take payments in the field, I can't track it. This is a great way to get paid right away. All right, if you give, the easier it is to make, the easier it is that you offer options for your customer to pay you, the faster you're going to get paid, right? No having to do collections, etc. So definitely, again, maybe not phase 1, but something we want to consider. So in field service management, you can take cash if you want to. You can turn that off. Check. You can also take credit card payments where you key in a credit card through the system and it'll process it. And we have some options when it comes to the Go Payment swipe. The new EMV, right? The chip card readers, Go Payment is now has EMV capability, so you can be protected in that way as well. So definitely give us a call if that's something that, we need to discuss. Okay. So for this one, I'm just going to say I'm taking a check. Now, if you're not taking payments in the field, period, I mean, we can turn, you don't have to do this part, but I just want to show you what it looks like because it's pretty cool on the back side. Okay. Oops, who did I receive it from? I received it from Mary, and it was check number, whatever. All right, so I had the payment details. I can email them out to the customer. Okay, but this work order pretty much is completed now. Okay, and when I come back to my work orders, I only have 2. And then on my list of completed today, so somebody must be doing a demo with me, but on my list of completed today, you can see that what work orders are completed and what I have waiting for pickup, etc. Now when I come back into the field service management side, you can see here, right, my work order ticket is marked as completed already, seamless integration. When I come in here, 10561. So when I come in, I'm going to look for 10561, pull up that work order. I have my picture note associated up here. I have my signatures attached here. Again, if I need to print something out for a customer, they say, no way did I sign off on that. I can open up that signature for them right there. Okay. Down below, I have my invoice. It shows that this has been paid. And of course, I have my action log that we talked about. All the information's right there for me. All right. So now let's talk about what happens when we go into QuickBooks. So we do want to set up your sync with QuickBooks. Definitely there's some settings in there that are really important that we make sure are set up appropriately. But essentially when you log into QuickBooks, you can have it give you a warning, or you can come in here and initiate the sync manually. So the warning will pop up and say, hey, do you want to sync your field service management? Okay, so when you go through and sync field service management, our customers, the majority of our customers, it takes anywhere between, 5 to 15 minutes a day, maybe even less. You see, we're going to pop right through this one right here. So it just depends on your volume. Again, the majority of our customers who use field service management are between, 3 to 5 technicians in the field. But I always like to throw out there, I mean, we have one that I think has 92. I mean, it can be used for very small, very large. So you can see it's taking me through. I could start this, right, and go grab a cup of coffee, because anything that is unchanged is just going to continue on forward for me. If I wanted to speed it up a little, I can hit this little next button here, right, to speed it up along the way. So it syncs sales tax changes, any customer changes, item changes. Again, it's if it changed in field service or if it changed in QuickBooks, right? So I do have some group items here. You can put group items into field service management. It's giving me saying that there are some changes. I like to leave this one in here because it also shows me that it does give an error log. So if there are any errors along the way, you can get that error log here. So then I say next, any change classes, employees with approved invoices. Okay, so I'm in Enterprise, the Enterprise edition of QuickBooks, and in Enterprise we can track inventory in multiple locations. So again, when we're talking about tracking inventory by truck, we have multiple warehouses, and each truck is considered a warehouse. So this isn't available in all editions of Field Service Management, all editions of QuickBooks, but it's something to be important, again, to learn. Maybe you don't want it today, maybe in 6 months it's something we can consider. All right, so I have Marjorie Jane. She's defaulting to truck 234. If I had other work orders that were syncing in, I would see all my technicians that had work orders that needed to sync, and then what their default truck was. Okay. So then I have my approved invoices. There's that 106.05 invoice we just created. And then I have my payments that come across. Okay, and then of course I have my time cards. All right, so now let's take a look at what it looks like inside of QuickBooks. So I come in here, I'm going to push previous. I'm going to widen my screen a little bit. So you can see I have a invoice in here to San Antonio Zoo. It is a preference if you want the work order number to come across as the invoice number, or if you want it to, the work order number will come in the memo and the invoice number will pick up the next QuickBooks invoice number. Okay, so I have my bill to and my ship to. Notice that they are, right, the ship to was a little different because I had it shipping my service address was to Joe Smith. The PO number comes across, it picks up my sales rep, terms, etc. from my QuickBooks file, or if you want the technician to come across as the sales rep in here, you can have that happen as well. Down below, again, it's a preference if you want the work done description to show up on the invoice or not. So I have that showing up here. And then I have my item here, my big pen. Okay, so what's nice again about it is that behind the scenes, right, it's taking now 12 of these big pens off of truck 234, so that, you know, Marjorie is responsible for these big pens. If we do a count of them, obviously again, big pens pretty immaterial, but let's say it was a material product. If I go do a count of them and, you know, the truck shows she's got 50, QuickBooks shows she should have 75, it's an opportunity for us to say, what happened to the rest of your big pens? Okay, and it could be a simple explanation, but at least the technicians know we're going to be holding them responsible for what they take out of the office here. Okay, and we have some ways to show you that where you can mass, you know, every week we adjust these things, we transfer them from the warehouse onto the trucks. So we have some ways that we can show you that make that process a little bit easier in QuickBooks. Okay. Now again, behind the scenes, one of the things that's really important to note that's happening, so transaction journal. I have here my invoice. Okay, so the invoice, with this invoice alone, I'm updating my income to $105. I'm also relieving my inventory here and having my cost of goods sold updated, so it cost me $40 for this. And then of course my sales tax is tracked as well, which is super important. All right, so a lot of information can be put here into QuickBooks as long as we're putting it into field service management. And the idea with this is, again, right, so what do we do now? Some people, you know, who don't have systems currently, they put it onto a piece of paper, and then the office tries to read the piece of paper and translate it into an invoice in QuickBooks, and there's a lot of questions back and forth. But this is a single point of entry, right? The dispatcher puts in the problem for the customer, the technician puts in what they actually worked on. It all flows down into QuickBooks, single points of entry, not multiple points of entry where we're having to, you know, put data onto a piece of paper and then put it into a system here. All right. And also because the sync is so easy, it makes it a lot easier too, right? So sometimes we do have customers that use outside work order management systems that don't sync into QuickBooks, and we're having to rekey that data in. So again, single point of entry, all the details that we need flow into QuickBooks. Okay. All right. So that is our demo today of field service management. Again, from here, you know, we could have a quick meeting to discuss any specific questions. That meeting's not about training how to use the product, just does the product do this? And then we can start planning out your project. So what are our phases going to be to get you to go live? Generally, we want to look at your QuickBooks file first, make sure that your QuickBooks file is set up and ready to sync with field service management. While we're dealing with your accounting team on that side, we can also be working with your work order team, right, on setting up your field service management. Then we go through the sync together, and then you know, some basic training, and you're off and running. All right. So that is Intuit Field Service Management.